in India and have come a long ways and have established the industry in India and in many ways pioneers. So welcome, Santosh, for having your perspective be very, very valuable to folks here. We have JC. Nobody calls him Jitendra, but as far as I know, he goes by JC. JC is a long-time industry veteran. Again, pioneers at a previous role at Intel, where he helped establish Intel as one of the leading players and leaders of the industry in India, and has grown substantially, and now leading the charge with Global Foundries, and I think rapid growth at Global Foundries as well. So having your perspective will be very helpful. We have Hitesh Garg, leader of NXP in India, and doing very exciting things in the fields of applications of semiconductors in the automotive sector and other allied sectors. In our conversations he shared with me, I had the privilege of riding with him to this event today. So we spent an hour and a half in the car. So I got to pick his brains on a lot of things. So it was very, very nice, and hopefully we'll be able to share some of that with you today. So first thing I want to say is the opportunity for the semiconductor industry is very clear, at least to us on this panel, maybe to many of you. We have, by all estimates, $550 billion industry today, and most analysts, with give or take a couple of years, have a window of within the next decade for sure this industry will be a $1 trillion industry. So we have a rapid growth opportunity in front of us. Need my glasses. In that context, there is a large opportunity for India as well. The electronics market in India is projected to be, $200 billion today, about 6% of our GDP. Some data from the VLSI organization as well as IESA suggests that by 2047 we could aspire to have a $3 trillion electronics market in India, which would be 10% of our GDP. And of that 3 trillion, the semiconductor share could be as much as 30%, or 800 billion plus. And so a large opportunity lies ahead from the India perspective. So I'd like to, use this panel discussion to explore some different perspectives on what that opportunity is, what are some of the challenges, and how we can go from here. So thank you all very much for taking the time. So let me start with that. India does have one of the largest domestic markets. What vision should we architect, and how should we connect the dots between where we are today to where the opportunity lies, attracting the right investments, getting the right partnerships, making the right moves as a country? So maybe I'll start with you, Santosh, if you could elaborate.
Thank you, Rinkesh. Thank you all for coming here in the morning. When you walked the way, you would have seen quite a lot of flags of the countries over there, right? If you just look at semiconductors from the time that you take sand to a usable product that you touch and use every day, the number of countries this crosses is several times bigger than the number of flags that you really saw, right? There are so many places this crosses international boundaries. It stays in some places a little longer, in the sense not necessarily physical time, but for adding more value. So when India or a particular company or even an individual looks at it, how am I going to add value from the time that from a sand becomes a usable product that is being used and solving a real world problem, right, which is what we're all interested in doing today. We got to look at it, how am I going to add value? Where am I going to add value? How am I going to add value, right? And we are now discussing it in the context of India. So we should look at it, right? What are they bringing to the table, right? There are several things that really happen right from the whole process, right? There are several places values get added into the system. How can we really have a seat in the table that we can actually go back and discuss how our valuation can be significantly further? People don't really do this if they don't really see significant value getting added in India, right? From what we have done in several years, there are so many things that we can actually do to increase the value when it comes to talent, when it comes to design resources, when it comes to a huge market that we are actually looking at it in front of us, when we really look at it in the product design domains, etc. There are so many places where India definitely has a seat on the table today. We got to look at it, how am I going to strengthen that seat? How am I going to make sure that in places where we don't really have enough seat, how am I going to get an interesting one there? And how am I going to retain my seat? Because the world is actually changing really fast. What do I have to retain these seats? Right? That's how I would really like to frame the question and see how we can actually discuss further.
Right? JC.
Hey, thanks, Adeshan. I think Santosh has covered most of it, so I can pass very fast. But first of all, thank you for coming. We are getting so boring on this topic that it's hard to get public now to come and listen to it. I just did actually in my car coming here, chat GPT on 3 questions that were sent, and it has all the answers. So now, what do we say, right? Which is beyond that you all already know. So Rangesh talked about 1947, right? What 3 trillion and so on. When you come to my age, you don't think 5 years and beyond. Because even if I start thinking that way, I know 5 years hence, maybe I should actually, because mind won't work as well, even if body is there. So I will just take the 5 to maybe 10. Maybe I will be cognitive, till 10 more. So I think Santosh put a very good picture on how in the supply chain of all the countries or organizations across the world, how do they play a part? It's very interesting if you study that whole semiconductor from design to manufacturing to reaching the customer and so on. It says that you have to cross at least 2-3 times the world, before the final product gets on. But so leaving that, what Santosh has already covered, I was thinking, what is going to be changing in the next 5 to 10 years that we should be prepared for? And even if we are behind in certain areas, let's say in manufacturing, for example, right, we are catching up on that. Design, we are already ahead. We are contributing to any report that you read, 20 to 25% of the overall worldwide design in the semiconductor space. But what can we think of what is going to change in the next 5 to 10 years that we can prepare ourselves for? So there are 3 things that come to my mind. One is on the technology side of it. I think AI, everybody uses that word, so I have to use it at least once to start with. But it is very, very important with the designs that AI technologies or ML technologies or LLMs are going to help create, the SOCs of the future. That is going to change tremendously the industry. It's not going to be another $500 million that you need on a single node designs that we are used to today. It is going to become more where industries are going to do more personalized designs because they will fall into $10 to $15 million range as far as what you need to invest in it. So that is a big change, and I think from India, since we are a very powerful design country, we need to think how that changes the scenario for us. So today, if hyperscalers are doing their designs, tomorrow I think the smaller OEMs across the world are going to be using the personalized designs. And India, since we are going to be very high consumption as far as electronics is concerned, which consumes semiconductor, we need to look at how can we then take advantage of it and use it for the local OEMs here. So one is on the technology side. The second technology change that is coming up that we need to be prepared for, that we can contribute, is even the materials that are going to be used in the semiconductor space in future. I think GaN, silicon carbide are already have been tested over the last 4-5 years. In my view, they will start to come into the high volume, high production space of it. And how do you contribute to that? Because nobody has a lead on it. Few companies are, big companies are, but how can, new materials, new technologies that are coming in, how India can take a lead of it. The third one is on the consumer side of it. Where is the consumption going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years? So one is the technology space, but where is it going to get consumed? And I think every report that you read, although overall automobile segment is getting saturated as measured by number of cars being sold in the world, but that trend is actually opposite in India and going to be that for next 1 decade at least, where more cars are going to be sold. But not only that, the change from $200 electronics or semiconductor in a car to $600 to $1,500 electronics in the car. And this worldwide phenomenon is one of the biggest phenomena that we need to be actually really ahead of it. I think some of our neighboring countries, big countries, they are playing a big role in that. And for the first time in the next decade or so, the car's depreciation is going to go the lowest. Actually, it will appreciate because it will be software driven. As soon as you upgrade the software, your car actually, instead of depreciating, will appreciate in the value in the future. So how do you really comprehend all of that and say where now we need to play a role, right? So that's what I wanted to add to what's
Great. Hitesh, your thoughts? There's a mic for you also.
Okay. No, thank you. I think.
First of all, very good morning, and thank you for inviting me for this panel. My job is even more harder. So whatever, I think most of the things were said by Santosh, and whatever remaining was already covered by JC. But I think, so here in this panel we are talking about opportunity. How can India lead the way? And you set the context very right. That we see a $30 trillion opportunity of India going to be an economy in 2047, and $3 trillion coming from the ESGM sector. So we are a big consumption economy, and I think for last 25-30 years, and we know Texas Instruments was leading the way, having the first semiconductor company in Bangalore, right? So they were shipping even their hard drives on a bullet cart. So we have seen those nice pictures. So from there we have come to a place where we are designing 2 nanometer, 3 nanometer, the world's most advanced chips in India, in Bangalore, in Karnataka. So we have come a long way, and I think JC talked about the automotive sector, so how we are going to become a consumer. The value of electronics, it's not the number of cars, they might stay the same, but how we are driving, or how we are driving the ecosystem, so the electronic component inside the car, whole innovation is coming from electronic and semiconductor. So that's a big opportunity. From India, what I see, we have certain strengths. We have created a great strength in chip design, doing the cutting edge chip design. At the same time, we have a strength in software. India is a big software powerhouse. How we can combine the power of these two to define and design more and more systems. Right? So what we need more, I think, if you ask me, how we lead the way into the semiconductor space is to develop and design our own systems. I think we have, so for example, car is a system, right? How do we think about car as a system and define design solutions for that? So we have to come beyond a semiconductor chip design space. We have kind of nailed it, so I don't see that as a challenge. That's a big, big opportunity we see in front of us with all the strengths that we have, and that's where I see opportunity to do more in the universities, in our academia. The startups are doing fantastic work in this ecosystem. There are more than 100,000 startups in India. 10-20% are sitting in Karnataka. So I would say Karnataka, given the powerhouse of technology, the powerhouse of semiconductors, can become also a powerhouse for systems. And that's what I think, how we can do that.
Great, thank you. If I may add just a couple of my thoughts, I think you guys covered it supremely well. I see that the innovations India has done in like UPI, for example, or DigiYatra, or these are applications that we've developed for our market in India with forethought, and they work in a highly reliable, seamless manner and improving lives. Even every person, individual has a cell phone today because there's value that individual derives from having that. So the opportunity I see for us is to better serve the domestic market by utilizing the global supply chain and the global technology space that we have. And just like UPI is now being exported to global countries, these applications will naturally be an opportunity for growth for the company, for the country. And Adam Smith, 300 years ago said, if economies grow by balance of capital and labor investments, right? I think we have solved the labor problem. We have a giant talent pool. The capital problem has been solved in the software sector because capital markets have incentivized investment. I think as we start to see some exits, some valuable exits in the semiconductor space in India, the capital markets will open up, because up to now the capital markets have been hesitant to invest because these are seen as high capital, long times for return type of industries. When the capital markets open up with these few exits, we will start to see a torrent of entrepreneurial minded people who are much younger than the folks. Yeah, I'm sorry to say, Santosh, but not us, but our next generation will see those opportunities. And I think 2047, I absolutely see us dominating this space because of those two, the combination of those two things. Anyway, thank you all for your thoughts. The next question is, why is to get where we want to go, why is the broader ecosystem important? Because again, to help people understand, the semiconductor ecosystem has so many different components to it, right? Even within manufacturing, there are so many things, materials, there's gases and chemicals, there's wafer fabrication, there's chip assembly and testing. In design, there's IP, and then there's companies like ARM, and then there's products, and there's so many different opportunities. So if you look at the entire ecosystem, why is that important to India to achieve this objective? And please highlight some of the areas in which you see good things happening and where there are opportunities. So maybe I'll start with you, Hitesh.
I think the ecosystem is very, very important, because we were discussing about the demand, right? So most of us, end of the day, we are technology providers. And we give it to your imagination, to your innovation, that what applications you develop based on our technologies. For example, I'll give you we created NFC, near field communication technology, 20 years back. For 10 years, there was no takers of that technology, right? But for last 10 years, everybody is using near field communication for secure transactions. It's there in all our credit cards. It's there even in our passports that we have it. Even so many of the secure applications, we are having this technology. So we, as a semiconductor companies, end of the day, we are cooking technology. But we have to work with the ecosystem to find the right applications so that we can make the life easier, better, smarter. And that's what we are all doing, right? So we can come with this concept, and if we don't have those application guys, if we don't have the smart, you can say the end market, so our innovation will also be limited. So I think that's where we need the ecosystem who will take our innovations, our technology for the right application so that we can hit the ecosystem better. So what we do is we take our technologies to Samsung of this world, or maybe Apple's of this world. We don't like to remove the connectors that you have, right? We have this high-speed link, which is at a 60 gigahertz, which will give 20 terabytes or whatever speed. Then they have to adapt. They have to see that how it lands up in their products. So we are a strong system player. We can think that what will be the need, but eventually it has to translate into the product. So I think working closely with our partners, with our customers, with the ecosystem is the need for better penetration of the technology.
Jason?
So I think, Rangesh, why this is important, I think it's a good question. I was just thinking while we were hearing from Hitesh too. See, one of the things is that semiconductors is becoming a very, very integral part of our lives. More and more in the last, 10 years or so. And we all depend how we lead our lives, how we get entertained, how we do our business or work, right? Depends on it. World economies actually are very much dependent on it. And more are getting moving towards this dependence. And especially the economies that have larger, GDP or the larger number of people. Like you really cannot live without the technology innovation and using the technology to grow yourself. You can't just grow by older means anymore. So for a country like India, it becomes a very, very important ingredient that we have a good say in the overall global semiconductor supply chain. So one is the need for the economy, how we lead our lives and so on. The second is, I think it's also from country's perspective, the security part of it, self-reliance on it. Even if you can never be a self-reliant country doing everything in semiconductor. I'm not saying that would happen. And I don't see it happening at least in next 10 years. I'm only thinking, 10. But having a good say in it, having a seat on the table when the negotiations happen at the global level is very, very important for the country like India from security perspective. And having certain, you can call it strategic electronics or critical electronics that you need, some indigenization that is required in a country like India. Those are two from the country specific, reasons that you need to do it. Now, why you need it beyond that? The third one, I see it that if you have, what Hitesh said, if you have a large consumption in India that is growing very, very fast, $200 billion today, $400 billion by 2030 of electronics, then you need some of that to be produced, not only not only imported, but to be produced in India. And the cost becomes a very, very important factor. If you don't do some of the elements in India or in a particular place, the cost becomes very, very heavy. And it keeps growing, because if today's 40 billion, I think we consume semiconductors in India, if it gets to 110 billion, 200 billion in the coming years, in next 10 years, I think the cost of not doing it is very, very heavy. Right? So I think those are the three factors I can think of why we absolutely need to do, some of it. But don't take my point and say everything has to be done in India. That would never happen. There is a huge supply chain that is a global supply chain, and we have to become a very critical part of it. That's what I'm asking.
Santosh?
Very well said, both Hitesh and JC on the comments, right? I'll just add my perspectives to this important question. I think one of the important reasons why we are looking at it is not only for the self-sufficiency of it. That's important for any country to really have its own control, right? But we should also look at this as on the economic side of it. Suppose we go ahead and do this, right? How is this going to change our GDP? How is this going to change the quality of life of the people that we really have? If you have to meet that goal, we should really think for a moment that everything that we will do in India will be available for the whole world. And the whole world is also available for us, which means that if I'm actually trying to do a product that we have to go back and sell in an appliance, we should not really sell it because look, the appliances that are actually made in India, they will buy from India if we are actually designing in India or making in India. We should do it because that's the best product available for that appliance, which means that today we should go back and look at the world that in the Shenzhen area, if I can actually go back and put a product that we develop and design here, it can be sold in Shenzhen because it's world competitive. If you create a product like that, then you can be 100% sure that India grows as a market, which we are very, very, which we have the greatest opportunity to grow in the next 15, 20 years in front of us, right? We will have the best chance of leveraging that opportunity. Otherwise, India market will grow, irrespective of whether we play to it or not. But we will not leverage the advantage of the India growing market if we don't really do that. So the question is that what are we doing now? The market is going to be big, right? What are you guys doing now and what should we really do now? There are so many evolving technologies that happen over here, right? For example, world was not necessarily understanding when EV was coming into big play. What is the role of EV in a two-wheeler market? What is the role of electronics in the two-wheeler market? India is a world leader in two-wheelers today. How many of us realize that we can actually create products for India, for the two-wheeler market, and have excellent business? Much before all of us have actually realized, right? Several startups have understood the value of it, right? Just look at the number of startups that we really have in the two-wheeler space today. Suppose you just go back and make the young people in India, the enterprising people of India, who is actually coming out from the colleges, right? And give them the opportunities to go back. Because the most important question that we have to answer in that is, what are we really building? Because over history of time, we have actually learned who will do the product, when will we do the product, will we do the product in time, right? These are important questions, right? Will we do it inside the budget? All of that, why should we really do the product? These have been answered really, really well. The opportunity that we have in front of us is that, right? Do we know exactly what to build? Going back to the same example, right? Suppose I'm actually creating a product for an appliance. Do we know what it actually takes to create that product in the small space? I may not be manufacturing. I may be only designing. I may be only testing the product. I may be only doing the logistics for that product from here. It doesn't matter what you're trying to do. Do we know what it takes to be the world leader on an important segment sitting out from India? That's the question that we have in front of us. And that's the exercise that we have to do today with a lot more focus. A lot of opportunities are there with startups, a lot of opportunities are with existing players over there and the new players that will actually come, right? My view is that, right, the most important asset that we really have is talent, right? Ranga talked about it in a very, very beautiful way. I'll add to this, right? In this technology world, capital flows where talent is. Capital and talent are not any different. If you have the talent, capital flows in it. Where else will we really go back and invest? We will go back and invest in our people, right? That's what the world does everywhere. As long as we hold to the talent, as long as we can actually enrich the talent at every stage, right? Which is what we are all trying to do. Capital will absolutely flow. Capital has never been a problem. Talent has been a problem. Capabilities have been a problem. And we have to build those muscles every day for an important future that we are actually building up here.
Great. Thank you so much. Very, very insightful comments. And to add my perspective on this, coming from, you see the ecosystem right here on this panel, right? We have chip makers and we have chip manufacturers, right? And we have equipment manufacturers. We could add materials folks, we could add, IP folks, and if you wanted to make room for every part of the ecosystem that it takes to have a semiconductor industry, we don't have enough space on this stage, right? And so what that tells you, and I think JC said it, no one country has everything that it takes to have a fully self-sufficient semiconductor industry. There are a couple of elements from my perspective why it matters to India to have the ecosystem. One is there is a security perspective. Give an example of a very small country in Europe. It's called Netherlands. This small country has a couple of companies that without which a lot of things cannot happen, and therefore has an outsized seat at the table when it comes to global discussions on security matters, right? And so developing a position like that, even in any one segment or area, can be highly beneficial from a security point of view for the country, right? So, but how do you know where that is going to come from? Because I don't think the Netherlands knew in 1985 that these two companies will be who they are today, right? So those investments weren't made with foresight or vision; they just happened because multiple investments happened in the ecosystem. So I think that is a very important reason to do the investment in the ecosystem. The other part is the economics. Which you pointed out. For every job, for every, maybe $1 trillion of semiconductor, there's 250 billion in the equipment space. And then there's another 150 in the material space. And then there's, probably we buy from people who, create tens of jobs. So for every job created in the semiconductor end market, there's tens of jobs behind it that create a job and economic opportunity for the country. So to me, the investment in the ecosystem is a must-have to make that happen. Yeah, makes sense. All right. Thank you. Maybe I'll focus now. In India in particular, there's been a lot of press and media discussions around manufacturing because it is kind of sexy, right? It's a sexy conversation to have, big billions of dollars being spent. Given India's ambitions, now I'll limit this question to you, JC, since you're in the manufacturing space. Given India's ambitions to be a key player in manufacturing, what are some of the key roadblocks that you see that need to be removed? How can industry and government collaborate, and how can we make this happen? Yeah.
Thanks. And thanks for not asking the direct question. Yeah, indirect one I can answer. For the direct one, I'll have to either lose my job or lie here.
I didn't ask you the direct question.
So
If you promise not to ask me the direct question back.
yeah, so I think even before we get to India, what your question was, what are the challenges? That's what the question, right? I think even before I go to India, you need to first look at what is happening in the world and what challenges I am at least able to see in the next, again, 4 or 5 years, actually quite soon. One of the things, if you look at all the announcements that have happened in the semiconductor manufacturing space, if you take all of that capacity that will get built, and if you take all of the demand that is going to come in the next decade, there is a huge gap. Okay? More capacity, I'm saying. It's not the problem of demand more than the capacity, right? So you see that, number one, how do you react to that when you are thinking from India perspective? The second, it's very obvious because of the geopolitical thing. Today the consumption, 30% comes from Americas, 29-30 comes from China, then rest of the world has 12-13% demand from Europe and so on. India has a smaller piece of that today. But if you look at where the manufacturing is happening, actually it's a little bit of a flip, right? Where most of it is in the Taiwan, 25-20%. I think Japan is 10. Don't take my numbers, guys. This is, I don't know exactly what numbers are. And Satya, don't correct me also, okay? If these are wrong numbers, please.
When the whole thing is over, Satya will correct all of us.
But the bigger point is, I think where the demand is and where the manufacturing is happening, percentages are going to shift in the next 5 to 10 years. And the whole focus of those countries, they also do, where the demand is more and the manufacturing is not happening. You have seen the CHIPS Acts, Chips and Science Acts and so on and so forth in Europe and US. So that will make a shift. Now in this scenario, we have to look at now where do we play a role and how do we play a role. It has to be a very intelligent decision, whatever we are taking. I think the best thing that has happened is the government coming out and making a bold step in $10 billion already an investment, and I think what I'm hearing is maybe more will come. And a couple of companies have already made commitments to that investment. The important point there is, I think we need to see the two trends that are going on in the global scenario, and how do we really make sure that the customer is clear and the technology that you are adopting or going to use is, you are very clear that it will work out in the next 5 to 10 years. Right? So if the money is taken care of, because I always tell people there are 3 things, you need money for this market because it's a large gestation period, 10 years you would have. I think with government support, that's pretty much taken care of. If you take care of technology and the customer together, then I think it's a safe bet. Otherwise, you have to really think through and take the right bet in this environment. So from my perspective, I think the government's initiative on the incentives is a great one. This is the best one that anywhere in the world you have 70-75% plus capex investment that you can make, plus in the design space too. The only challenge, the third India would face, where we have to figure out, because the whole ecosystem is not there. So there is a cost involved in making sure that you start development without the ecosystem. Ecosystem will slowly come. And between the brownfield and the greenfield, which is India, what is that gap people still see? Because many other countries where already the factories are, their governments are incentivizing too, from anywhere from 30% to 50%, right? So we have to really look at the ecosystem shortage that we have today. How do we fill up that gap? Either bring the ecosystem faster or also incentivize the ecosystem to come faster to the country.
Thank you. Since I'm also in the manufacturing space, I'll add a little bit of perspective to that. I totally agree with you. I think the semiconductor scheme 1.0, I'll call it, focused on the fabs directly. And what we've since realized is we do need to also focus on the ecosystem. So, the government has said a lot about that. Nothing formally announced yet. My expectation is at some point, and I don't know anything, again, please don't quote me, I have no knowledge of anything specific, but I expect that logically the government of India, based on the public statements they've made, will support the establishment of the broader ecosystem as well. And I think just like when PI started with bullock carts in 1984 and to where we are today, I think we'll see, this is just a journey that we have to go through in terms of the roadblocks of, in 1984 when we started, there was not many people in India who knew how to design chips, right? Today we are serving 25%. Today there are not too many people who know how to build chips in a factory, but that's again, JC is solving that problem already. I think you have a number of people who are now contributing to your global factories from India, as is Lam Research with the work that we're doing. So I have no doubt that the talent challenges can be solved with time, and the ecosystem with the government support. I think we'll see this come to fruition. Yeah. Thank you. All right, Santosh and Hitesh.
A minor point to add to that
Sure.
Is that, right? Something that is actually changing in the last 10, 15 years in a very significant way is that, right? Our ability to predict what kind of products are going to be important 3 years from now, 5 years from now is actually coming down. If you just look at it, right? Earlier, we could sit and imagine and go back and put a graph and say, hey, this is how the graph is actually going to be. We could go back and create systems. You look at any semiconductor product, we take more than 2 to 3 years to develop the product. If you take any process technology that we're talking, it takes 3 to 5 years to mature the process technology, right? While this is actually changing in a very, very fast way compared to what it was, right? We all feel it and experience it now. An important change is that the predictability of the future is in a big question mark. In the sense, none of us can sit and say, this is what the end user or the customer will demand 3 years from now, 5 years from now. So how do we create a system in a very accelerated way, not clearly able to put a dot, exactly say that this is exactly where we are going to be in the world, right? And it's a beautiful thing for something like India, right? How do we bring in the flexibility of design? How do we bring in the adaptability of the design, right? While we go through a process like this, right? And for any kind of a system, when you are looking at something where significant changes are actually happening, incumbents will actually suffer because they think they know it, they have done it. And the new players like us jumping into the field has a huge opportunity because we don't know. We think we don't know, that's how we are actually starting. For some, when we really think, I don't really know, my ability to plan, prepare and start flexible, right? Like an exam, when I don't know what I have to write in an exam a week from now, I'm going to be a lot more preparing for it rather than somebody who's thinking I have done all of this, right? And we needed to have that agility in our mindset when we really create products for the future, because we have to stay ourselves humble and flexible, thinking that I just don't know exactly what I'm going to do. So let me prepare myself, my organization, my team, my products to survive in a world which surely is going to be big, but exactly don't know what are the characteristics of that point. Just wanted to add.
No, thank you. It's a great lead into my next question. I was going to add fearlessness also, because this also creates opportunity that you don't have to worry about the big moats that the incumbents might have, because you have an opportunity to disrupt it. So, okay, that's a good lead into the next question. This I'll direct to you, Santosh and Hitesh. We have been very successful in terms of number of people working on chip design. There is a perception perhaps that because we don't have NVIDIAs of the world at trillion-dollar market caps today, there's perhaps a perception that the IP creation or deep tech innovation or products from semiconductors are not so visible to us from India. So how do you guys see as to where we are, sort of give us a baseline as to where we really are? Because Hitesh, I heard from you in the car today some things that I didn't know before, so maybe you can share some of that. And then also, where do we go from here in terms of that angle, semiconductor products?
Yeah, no, I think, thanks for this question, and you said it's a perception, and I believe that's the case. It's nothing more than a perception. India is buzzing with a lot of innovation in all sectors, right? Whatever you say, okay, this is the futuristic technology, you will see 10 startups on that topic in India. If you talk about quantum compute, I thought, okay, so we are doing some quantum compute work with some governments in Europe. I said this is a new topic, but when I started searching, I found 10 startups which are working in quantum key distribution, quantum compute. So this is a very futuristic topic. You talk about IP, right? You said RISC-V. That's an innovation which is happening in the ecosystem in our universities, in IIT Madras, Professor Kamakoti. So he's leading the way. So he's having an ecosystem of 10 startups around him. So somebody is developing a core, somebody is doing a verification, somebody is building a software. So they are building a complete ecosystem in a university ecosystem. And when you talk about AI, there are multiple startups which are there, so fantastic startups which are having valuation of more than $1 billion. The only thing is that those are visible to the people who are actually looking with a lens. So India is buzzing with a lot of innovation, with startups, and I think it's just a matter of time. You need not to be, yeah, of course, as I said, there are startups with more than $1 billion valuation. It's a matter of time that you will see this NVIDIA or any other such companies coming in. But for us, like Santosh pointed out very, very rightly, many of us does not know what the future holds for us. So are we clear about all our product roadmap? Answer is no. We are defining, okay, this is how the future will look like, and these are the capabilities, these are the missing pieces in the ecosystem or in our solutions we need to have. So that's what we are building, and that's where we, even in the semiconductor companies, we are bringing that system thinking. How we can put our thinking into, I would say, looking at our customer solutions, that how can we serve them better? How can, instead of bringing a chip, how can we give a system solutions to them? Especially in automotive industry, Industry 4.0 is having a huge opportunity. And how the actual solutions will look like, we even don't know. All we can bring is these technology pieces and how they should be stitched together, how we are giving them software to enable them. The only thing, the speed of ecosystem which Santosh talked about is asking us to reinvent ourselves, is to provide a complete solution which is not only hardware but software and a system integration ready. So I think these are the challenges, and semiconductor companies are not semiconductor company, only a chip companies anymore. So we are kind of stepping ourselves into more and more system companies. And with this, with the ecosystem that we have here, with the startups, with the IPs, innovations which are happening, we are completely tapping into this ecosystem.
Right, Santosh, your perspective?
Good points, right? I'll just add maybe a couple. If somebody asks you today, which is a good place to start a career or build a career, right? And several youngsters will, I'm sure, ask several of you. It goes without saying that you can easily recommend semiconductors, electronics, and the associated spaces, right? Because for all the reasons that you said, buzzing with energy, a lot more people trying to do, the startup ecosystem growing, all of them are extremely obvious things that is happening that we experience every day, right? Which we see over decades of time how things have actually changed, right? How are we leveraging this additional energy, additional set of people, the new set of people studying VLSI in colleges, right? How are we really trying to do that and leverage, right? For a company like PTI, we leverage a lot with what is really happening in campus, academics. 80-90% of the people that we hire, we directly hire from the campuses. We bring in interns to work and all of that, right? That's just our way of going back and tapping into that energy as well as serving that energy. But if you just look at an ecosystem, there are two important things that we can actually try to do into that ecosystem of players with a lot of energy. Number one is that, right, are we able to expose them to the real opportunities? When startups are actually coming, right, are we able to connect to the real market, what is really happening? Because that's an important place, right? Because that is where we actually learn. That's when, with all the simulations, all the practices that we have actually done every day, you get into the ground and you start phasing the balls, right? And that's very, very important. As established players, are we able to connect to the real market scenarios that is really happening around us, right? That's the most important question that we can actually try to do to the younger sets of people really coming around us at this point in time. Second thing is that, which is related to this, is that, right, are we able to think adjacent players into the market? Suppose I'm actually trying to do something, for example, right, I'm trying to do something for, take the same example, two-wheeler markets out there, right? People who are working on the technology, do they understand material science? Do they understand battery charging mechanisms? Do they understand what it actually takes to increase the life of the battery by some more? Or the number of charging cycles I can actually try to do? Because electronics plays an important role. So while you have to be an expert in your domain, your ability to catch and work on adjacent technology, which is really the fun of true engineering, when you really go back and look at it, right? You're going to be an expert in a domain, but you're going to connect other domains to it and come back and play a role into this, right? These two are important things that India can actually do significantly more, because that's when you're actually saying, I'm connecting to the end equipment, I'm connecting to the market, right? All this energy that you're actually trying to say need not be limited only to semiconductors and electronics. It can actually expand to the whole of engineering. How do we ensure that the best of the people working in material science get a great opportunity by working in India for a problem that we are actually trying to solve? Because these are all connected fields, right? If you just look at it and how heat is dissipated, how much power, I mean, we talk about all the servers, right, that we're talking. How does this get dissipated? What kind of materials do I need to put together, right? So every domain of engineering that we are actually going through is getting challenged and will get challenged as we really go through, right? Ability for us to connect those pieces and really bring the right minds to the problem. We don't know about solutions because we have to create the solutions, but we got to bring them to the right problem so that the best of the solutions will evolve and some of that will actually stick with us, right? That's the hope that we have and that's the plan that we can work.
Yeah, maybe a small point to add. So I was going to Visakhapatnam 3 weeks back, and in my car there was a young entrepreneur, and this guy, he's running his startup for drone releases. I would say he's building up, and I said, okay, what are your challenges? He said, my biggest challenge is, one is that my battery, I think it just dies down very quickly. And second is I want to control the cost of my delivery. He said, my target is I would like to bring it to, so currently it's around 7 or 8 rupees. I would like to bring it to 15 or 20 paisa. He said, even an Oreo biscuit I would like to deliver to people's home, and that should be cost effective. So with these kind of problem statement, right, we are building solutions. How do we create a camera solution? How do we create accurate positioning, ultra wideband, those kind of technology? How do we make battery management most effective so that we does not, so we can bring the cost from 7 rupees to 15. So I think these are the entrepreneurs who are showing us the way how we innovate. Just to add to that.
It's very heartening to hear both of you say that the actual reality of India is may not be fully publicized and visible, but the activity is very, very high. I agree with you. It's buzzing, and there are many, many opportunities for youngsters who are willing to take the risk and think like systems engineers. Because I think that's one of the disciplines that we are missing, in large numbers, right? We have a lot of point, deep, vertical talent, but we don't have the enough T-shaped people who can go deep when needed into one thing and then come back out and go broad at the same time. And we need to build that skill set. Structurally speaking, my opinion is India has suffered from one thing, which is the low cost of labor has made us lazy. So, as we grow up, right, even to fix the bicycle chain, you take it to the neighborhood bicycle shop, right? Whereas in certain other economies of the world, the cost of labor is prohibitive, So you learn to work with your hands. You fix everything around your house with your own hands. And that builds in you a system engineering mindset from when you are young. So, and then when we companies, Santosh, when I looked at the problem we had, we would go to hire people. The only proxy we had for skills was GPA and the quality of the educational institution. Well, that does not guarantee that person is going to be good with their hands. And a lot of things, what we need to do is people need to be good with their hands. So one little solution we did was to start this systems engineering challenge. So it's a nationwide competition. And lo and behold, now half of my interns next year are going to come from the toppers from that challenge who were not top of their class, who did not, but demonstrated a skill set with their hands. So I think there are those kids out there. There are the people out there. Our systems have not allowed it to come to surface. And so now we will create those opportunities and we will come to the surface. So I think it's a good connection to the last question I had. This is to all of you, the talent question. While we say we have a great talent pool, I think the numbers are large. What do you think about the quality of that talent pool and where it needs to be, and how do we get it to be where it needs to be over the next few years? So maybe we'll start with you, Santosh.
I think if good people, for example, a few years back, right, a few decades back, not a few years back, came out of colleges, their opportunity to get trained better, their opportunity to improve would be to look for a visa, go out somewhere, some other country, spend several years there, and then feel that, oh, I'm accomplished, right? Good thing that has actually happened over few decades that we have over here is that, right? Cutting edge, high quality work, end to end happens right here, right? There are people who can actually come out of colleges, come into any of the places that we are actually working, and that's just not the people sitting in the floor over here, but several places in the country, right? End-to-end product development is happening, which is very, very encouraging because opportunities are absolutely available there, etc. There are a couple of places where we would really like to see even more, right? When we really are doing well, we can actually do even more. Number one, can we really increase the quality of teachers that is happening in the colleges? To me, the most important thing is that, right? How do we bring them to the real world? Once you have become a teacher, right? You are actually a teacher for a life, right? My dad is a teacher, is actually taught for life physics. How do we ensure that teachers like that who actually stayed and worked for long, how do we really bring them once in a while to the real world, give them the experience, and also the rest of the people to learn, right? So we do have, we have to be imaginative. We do have people who come from some of the best colleges, come work in TI for a couple of years, literally work in TI for 2-3 years. We learn a lot from them. They learn a lot of things about it, and they go back and teach, right? The exposure that we're able to give to teachers when they really do a program like that, where they come, get embedded inside an organization, learn and go back, is just fantastic, because then they can actually scale it down to a larger number of people, right? Can we ensure that we can actually provide a lot more internship programs than what we're trying to do today? There are programs that have actually come, we are actually doing it with the students. Can we do even more? Can we really even more simply by the fact of thinking that I'm not doing a service to them, I'm going to sit and learn the way that they think, how they are actually solving a problem, how they are approaching a problem. Can companies be even more open in really bringing higher levels of internship? Something that the government can actually do even better today is that, can we put national level research problems in front of academia? Can we take a bigger problem that the country faces today? Can we really, for example, right? Can we really put out a problem that says that, how do I just triple the content of land that can be serviced by water today? There is a lot of land that we really have today which does not reach water. But there is technology available today that I can actually go back and adapt to really create much higher, better crops. If I'm having one crop today, I can have 3 crops today. If I don't really have fruits, I can actually have ways in which I can develop fruits today. Technology allows the solution for today. Can we really imagine ourselves to sit and create national level problems, right, that put in front? How does that help? It actually is will bring significantly higher level of research and innovation into academia, because they will be freely thinking about a problem and come up with multiple different solutions. Some of that will be practical, that will be applied. Some of them will be for the future generations to go and adapt, right? But we absolutely have to increase the practical hands-on learning in the colleges and research as an immediate way to go and address it. And government and other institutions actually can have a huge impact on increasing the quality of research and the content of research with an ability to solve a national problem in front of us, which is extremely motivating for a lot of set of young people to come back and say, this is what I did, right? I made fruits possible in a barren land, which was not really possible today, right? Those are the kind of opportunities that we would really like to live with when we look at younger talent for the country.
Thank you, Santosh. JC?
No, I think Santosh covered it well. I think the research one, I absolutely agree. We need to do much more in the research mindset and what we can do. So, just a little bit, different way. I will not answer the quality question from if they are ready for the jobs and so on. But, few things I observe. Youngsters don't mind it. I'm being honest here. One of the things is what I feel we are lacking, we need to really focus. And this we have to focus right from the beginning. I'm not taking only colleges and so on. I think the curiosity part of it within ourselves, right, when we are coming out, is just having a curiosity of an industry, what is the next we need to do in this industry and so forth. See, in this today technological world, with all the information available to us around which we can really do it on our phones and at our homes, there is no excuse to not to be ready today for anything. If I need to take a totally new job somewhere, new industry, I think I can prepare myself in 1 month without really even going to the college or institutions, because there is so much available today. But having that curiosity, is something we need to really engage with the students right from the school days, not when they come to the colleges, right? The second one, I would say, reaching the excellence. I think we are very good at doing the job, learning, doing the job, but how do you really excel at something and be the top 2% or 1% in the world? I think those two things, sometimes I feel there are people who go for it, and we know people who are doing, coming from Indian educational institutions who are doing great globally. But that percentage, I think, we need to somehow, make sure we increase. And then in the semiconductor, specifically in the semiconductor space with manufacturing and so on, I think we need to be a little bit relaxed there, I feel. See, if you really take it, how many fabs, I'm just talking about manufacturing because people say we need to train so many people, right? Even if you have 3 fabs, let's say 4, at the most you will have total of 10,000 people, total, right? And at the top, where you require is maybe 500-600, top, engineering excellent guy who have this experience. Today in India, with all the people who have gained that experience, who have come back, you have lots of them. You need to just identify, pay them right, and you will, get those. Second, we have our, Indians or even non-Indians, right, across the world. As you said, everybody, this is a great place to come and work. I think we can attract those people here. And the last one I would say, if we need to create 3 or 4 fabs, we can send 1,000 people in different fabs and get them trained, right? So I think we should not get too much, worried about that part of it. But having that curiosity mindset, the excellence, to achieve something at the top 1% of the world, I think something we need to bring to our educational system and in our students, and especially in the youngsters who are sitting in the audience here.
Right. Hitesh, your perspective?
I think Santosh and JC covered it very, very well. So I have exactly the same points. Technology is a great leveler, right? So we talk about, I would say anybody sitting in Bangalore has no advantage as compared to somebody sitting in a tier 2 or a tier 3 city, right? You get access to information, access to technology in every place. So So I think if you think that you are in this city or into a big city and you have exposure to technology, I think that's a complete myth. So you should come to reality. And I go back to JC's point, right, that the curiosity part has to go up. I think and even I would go even to the level, the people who are coming from smaller cities, who have more hunger to learn, more curiosity, they will do better in life. So if on one side your question was more on the quality of talent, I think this is fantastic. We, in India, we have wealth of talent, right? So we are doing the best of chip design, the 2 nanometer, the advanced chip design, the deep experts. So for example, a few years back, somebody told me that, I said, okay, we hired a person. I said, okay, what do you do? He said, I'm a knock expert. I said, what is knock? I'm in this field for 30 years, or I do not know what is knock, right? It's one of the deep interconnection standards, right, which you do when you do advanced chip engineering. So we have those kind of people in India which you don't see anywhere else. So we have deep expertise into certain domains and we can execute things. But I think, coming back to Santosh's point, we should focus more on research. What I see more and more students, they are coming immediately, they want to come to the jobs, they want to start. And because of this, our universities are drying up. We don't have good quality students in even the top institutes to do research, to do fundamental research. So I think the more you learn, the more you invest in your formative years, the longer you can have differentiation in your career. So the more you invest now in yourself, your career will stay for long. So I think that's what at least the advice, exactly picking up what Santosh and what JC said, is let's not go for easier heavens, guys. So learn more. System thinking is what this country will take us ahead. That's where we need to invest, systematically invest, even in research topics. So I think that's at least my advice and my push, if I would like to, how I would like to advise the future system.
Great, thank you. So my own perspective on this is I have every faith that we will get all the talent we need. I'm aligned with you, JC, when you said we don't really have a problem per se. But I would like to see a broader penetration of more consistency in our educational excellence across the entire set of universities that actually get licensed to deliver degree programs. So perhaps a increase of our own expectations as a society by way of accreditation programs or more meaningful incentives to increase the level of quality of teaching, perhaps compensation to teachers to make it an attractive profession to go to. These are all systemic problems that government can help a lot in solving. And even some philanthropists and senior business leaders can think about how to solve these problems. Like the Indian School of Business was created out of a vision to create a high quality management institute. And today I would argue it has reached that level. And again, it's a kind of a vision of a few people to make something happen. So we could see that happen. So I'm pretty confident about that. So with that, I think we are almost out of time. So if anybody wants to summarize and say a few things, please.
I think you said very well and you summarized several points, right? I think opportunities for us are enough and more. There are enough problems to solve, enough opportunities are there in front of us to go and solve. The real question is that how prepared are we now to take these opportunities by storm, go enter into this and really come out very successful. What are we preparing personally ourselves, individually, each of us, how much are we really prepared to do? How much are we preparing our organizations? How much are we really preparing the country for this to take these opportunities, right? Because these opportunities will be there for the entire world. This will not be really limited only to India. As much as India has all the opportunities that is existing in the world, all these opportunities in India will also be available for the whole world, right? How are we preparing ourselves to take these opportunities and learn from it, all right? A huge learning experience if we are looking at it. Excellence that JC talked about, several such points out there that tell us that the next decade is going to be our decade. If we choose to go play in it very smartly in it, right? All the opportunities are out there that we can go and leverage, right? So one of the best times to be in high technology domains if you are already in. If you're not in, come in. There is a lot of opportunities for us to be in the best domains.
Thank you, Santosh. JC, any
Yeah,
wrapping
same,
up thoughts?
Yeah, no, same, Rangesh. Actually, what Santosh said, to be very frank, I'm jealous that I am 15 years older. If the for the youngsters who are in the who are in the audience, see, first of all, you will not find an industry that absolutely is going to have a growth path for next 2 decades. You cannot have many industries you can talk about which will have at least 7 to 8% growth if you look at next 2 decades. So if you become part of that industry, and if you are in India, where the consumption, the innovation, the production, all is going to really happen. It has already taken off. Design, we are already doing 20-25% of those designs. Manufacturing is picking up. So if you look at all of that, there couldn't be a better time for youngsters to be part of this industry and part of the ecosystem here. Now, what we need to decide for ourselves is, are we going to be mostly consuming or are we going to be really innovating in the next 2 decades, right? I think that is the only question in my mind. So, that's how I think about it, and I'm very excited for whatever time I have left in this industry.
Great. Hitesh?
For me, there's one word which is key, that is collaboration. You talk about ecosystem, and I think there are fantastic things happening in pockets in this country, in this state, in Karnataka. I think the best advantage we can get out of that if we all connect, if we can leverage each other's advantages that we have, right? Be it the startup ecosystem, we talk about university ecosystem. We not only have to consume from the ecosystem, we also have to give back to ecosystem. And that's where Santosh talked about training the teachers, right? So I think collaboration is the key. If we have to be successful, even for the startups, even for the youngsters. See, of course, your mind can, and for us, right, even being a big company, we look at all the startup ecosystems. What are the key innovations? Because I have only 10,000 people in the company who are innovating. But in the startup ecosystem, there are 100,000, 100,000 people who are innovating every day. So we need to respect that ecosystem. We need to tap into that ecosystem. We need to collaborate with more and more people so that we can go together. So I think if we are walking alone, we can only go so far. But if we are walking together, we have a huge opportunity in front of all of us.
Very, very well said, all three of you. Thank you very much for all your time. I think we learned a lot today about the value of having ecosystem, the value of having collaboration, the opportunities and the excitement. It's palpable even for us, old fogies. I go to work every day jazzed up because every day brings a new opportunity, and it's been incredible for me. 30 years in the industry, and I thought sometime 10 years ago, I thought with Moore's law slowing down, maybe things will slow down, but we've learned that we can work. The innovation engine is endless, and Moore's law, nobody even talks about it anymore, right? I mean, we didn't talk about it once today. So it tells you that, we can do a lot when there is sufficient demand for the right applications. And if people have gotten hooked onto this drug called semiconductors, the share of wallet, saw a study by McKinsey that showed that while real income stayed stagnant in the US for 15 years, their share of wallet increased by $400 towards electronics. And that told you that the value perception, they reduced spending in other areas and moved it to electronics. And it tells you the opportunity that is going to continue to happen. And I think youngsters in the audience, it's a great time to enter the industry. It's a great time to take risk, because when there is rapid growth, risk is on. And as a youngster, you should be fearless and you should pursue every opportunity you can get. That's my personal objective. If I were 15 years younger, JC, I might think of starting up something myself, but other than that, I just pontificate. So thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, dignitaries, for taking the time of joining us out here at Invest Karnataka 2025 and sharing with you your thoughts and perspective on how it's India's turn to lead the semiconductor revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, if I could request you to kindly put your hands together for the thoughts, inputs and words shared this morning. Requesting you to kindly stay back on stage. On behalf of the government of Karnataka, we have a small token of appreciation to hand over to the four of you, and thanking you for your time for joining us out here once again for Invest Karnataka 2025.